I first began to experience what would later be diagnosed as both anxiety and depression when I was in college. I also began to experience some insomnia at that time in my life. And truth is, I've found sleep to be elusive most of my adult life. But as a young adult, I didn't know at the time that what I was experiencing was actually a chemical imbalance in my brain. I just thought that I was a worrywart who couldn't sleep. Now, my mom is the queen, the queen of worrywarts. So I figured I just came by it naturally. And I worried about everything. I worried about my grades and my friends. I worried about the environment. I worried about not having enough time to get things done. I worried about my brother. I worried about my parents. I worried about money. I worried about my hair. You name it, I worried about it. And people would say things to me like, Kelly Lyn, you're going to make yourself sick with all your worrying. And the truth was, I actually was sick. But nobody told me that it wasn't my fault or that there might be some help available to me to help me better cope with my worry. So I did what I knew to do, which was to pray. And I prayed for God to relieve me of my worry. I kept journals from those young adult years, and I've gone back and read how I poured out my heart to God, begging for God to take my worrying away for years. I prayed the same prayer day after day, month after month, year after year, and it didn't go away. And I thought I was doing something wrong, or that my faith wasn't strong enough, or that I wasn't good enough. And some seasons were more manageable than others. You know, I moved a lot in my 20s, as most of us do. I graduated from college. I took my first full-time youth ministry job. Then I moved to North Carolina for graduate school at Duke, and I continued to work in the local church. I stayed very busy. I was a good student. And I was an overachiever. So that seemed to mask my symptoms of anxiety because people around me just figured it was natural for somebody doing as much stuff as I was doing at that age, natural for somebody in graduate school, natural for somebody working 30 hours a week, that I would be pretty stressed out. Insomnia plagued me too, but it felt like people were almost celebrating my stress because it was good for me to be that busy and doing the good work for God. But when I graduated from Duke and moved down east to take my first appointment, it all caught up with me. And I experienced a deep downward spiral of depression. I went months. I went months and months without telling anybody, even though I knew something was really wrong and that I needed help beyond what I could do for myself. And finally, after experiencing some suicidal thoughts, I told a trusted clergy friend what I was experiencing, who helped me connect with a mental health professional. And it was actually in the same month that I found a medical doctor who took some time with me and really listened to me, took me really seriously, and helped me name that I was chemically depressed and that I needed medication to take the edge off my imbalance. Now, I realize it may be shocking to you, maybe even disturbing for you to hear your pastor talk about having suicidal thoughts. But research shows us that talking about suicide actually doesn't increase the risk of suicide in children, youth, or adults. In fact, it does the exact opposite. Talking directly with others about suicide helps lessen the stigma around mental illness. And it lets your loved ones know that it's okay to talk about it and can help them feel better, can help you feel better during a confusing, emotional, and what would otherwise be a very isolating time. Now, that was more than 20 years ago now. And in between, I also survived brain trauma because of a serious illness called viral encephalitis. And sleep is still elusive for me in some seasons, but today I continue to see a therapist. I see my doctor regularly. I take an antidepressant every single morning. And more recently, I've added an anti-anxiety medication every night after experiencing some panic attacks just a couple of years ago. That's actually happened since I've been back at White Plains. And I was dealing with my father's death and the stress of a pastoral transition. In addition to my medical and mental health care, I also tend to my overall well-being through daily yoga and meditation practice, as well as I meet monthly with a spiritual director. And I've gained lots of other practices over the years that have helped me to fill my cup so that I have the reserves that I need to help invest in the lives of those I'm called to serve. And thanks be to God for God's healing work through all of these channels of grace, that I'm able to live more fully and mindfully in the present moment than I ever have in my life before. I'm actually more rested these days than I have been in my whole life long, and I'm really grateful for that. And I share this bit of my story and my journey towards mental wellness today in order to combat the stigma that's too often associated with mental illness and the ways the church has been silent for too long in addressing mental health. But mostly, I'm sharing my personal journey with you because I want you to know that you are not alone. And your family members and loved ones living with mental illness are not alone. And this community of faith that we call White Plains is launching a new ministry, a new community initiative called Welcoming Wellness, that you're going to hear more about in just a few minutes, so that we might resource one another and the larger Cary community with hope and support in the midst of crisis or despair. I really believe this is going to save somebody's life. And we're in this life together. We're here for you, and you can get the help you need. And you're valuable to us, and you're loved as part of this congregation. So let's embrace our interdependence on this journey through this life together. And let's commit to contribute to the mental wellness of everyone. Thanks be to God. White Plains friends, as you've heard, we're launching a new community outreach initiative called Welcoming Wellness today. And Robin Stirewalt is here, one of our church members and a gifted lay servant leader. And Robin, would love for you to tell us more about this initiative and how it was born.
Thank you for your story this morning, because you have done exactly what we're hoping to do with this initiative, and that's to empower people to talk about their stories and to seek help. So let's talk about how Welcoming Wellness was born. You know the old saying, be careful what you wish for?
Yes.
Because you just might get it?
Yes.
Well, in the United Methodist Church, I think the saying is, be careful what you wish for, because they'll put you in charge of it. Which is
I'm guilty of that, yes.
Well, that's exactly what happened. You may be the guilty one in this party, too. I'm not sure. But anyway, there was a meeting at my house, and you said, what would you like to see the church doing that they're not doing? And somewhere a voice came out and said, I'd like to see something done around mental health. Imagine my surprise when I realized it was my voice that said that. Everybody knows somebody that has had mental health issues in their family. I promise you that's true. Even if you think it might not be true for you, it is true. So in thinking about this, a group of volunteers got together, and we've been meeting for a year now to figure out what we wanted to do for mental health. Welcoming Wellness will be an initiative sponsored by our church, but it's going to be for the community. So before we talk about the initiative itself, let's talk about what we are and what we aren't. We are not a support group, so you'll never be called on to share your story or make comments. We are not a counseling group. We will not give advice. We will not look at specific situations and say you should do this or that. What we are is a resource sharing group. Our goal is to provide knowledge and resources to caregivers before and during mental health crisis, and to reduce stigma surrounding mental health. We want to encourage people and their caregivers to reach out for help by using the knowledge and the resources that we hope we can provide through this ministry. A caregiver can be a parent, it can be a sibling, it can be a grandparent, it can be just an ally of the community. It can be actually an entire Sunday school class. So there's something that everybody can learn from this. At the beginning of the initiative, we plan to have resources available for people in the adolescent to adult range, and we hope to expand that as we grow.
So I'm hearing very clearly that we're not mental health professionals.
That's correct.
But this is a resource, a committee that's providing mental health resources.
Yes, and it's resources for caregivers so that they can take proper care of the people who are ill in their life and who they love. Every month, we're going to have mental health professionals come in and give a talk, give a presentation. And it will be on a Sunday afternoon, and it will be 2 o'clock to about 3:30. Our first one is actually next weekend on May 19th. And we will have NAMI at that one, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. NAMI is really kind of the gold standard for advocacy and training and support groups. So we're not looking to replace them. We are looking for them to supplement our program. In the following months, and we have about 12 months planned, we're going to have things like a mental health attorney come in. We're going to have a therapist come in. We're going to have a psychiatrist come in to talk about meds and med management. We're also not going to ignore the financial piece. We're going to have people such as Social Security come in and talk about what kind of financial help you can get for your loved one. We'll have vocational rehabilitation come in to talk about job training. What happens to your loved one when you're no longer able to take care of them? We're going to have somebody that's going to do estate planning come in. So we're trying to just kind of pick up the whole thing. You can watch it in 3 different ways. We'll be in person, and we'd love to have you come for that. We will have them as a Zoom webinar, and we will also have them on demand on our website, welcomingwellnessnc.com. It is exciting. We want people to participate in the way that they feel comfortable.
So you're making it available in every possible way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
well, tell us more about why now? Why at this particular time are we engaging in this work?
you mean other than the fact that when Dr. Lee calls you, it's very hard to say no to her?
Yeah.
Okay, other than that, okay.
We've all experienced that.
Now, because it's time. You know, it's actually past time. We need to change the conversation around mental health and wellness. We have to change it from one of stigma and shame to one of support and openness and love. If you want to change the outcome, you have to change the conversation. So as our committee has been visiting classes to talk about this initiative, there's been a question that comes up, and it's, well, we're a church. Why are we talking about mental health in a church? And my answer to that is, why not?
That's my answer too.
Absolutely. We have the food pantry to help feed the hungry. We work with Family Promise. We work with One Way to help the homeless. Why would we not look at a very real health concern in our community and ignore it? Why would we not do this? On our White Plains website, we have a values page. And one of the values is accountable discipleship. And this initiative, Welcoming Wellness, is part of accountable discipleship for us. But I don't want you to just take my word for any of this. This need in the community is great, and I want you to hear from two of my friends, Linda and Amy. And it's appropriate that it's Mother's Day because they are both mothers and they are both traveling that journey of mental wellness with their children. So let's take a minute to watch and listen.
Well, welcome, White Plains family. I'm so excited to introduce you to two women that I've gotten to know a little bit on this journey of welcoming wellness. I want to introduce Amy and Linda to you. And really, we just want to hear your story. So, Linda, let's start with you.
Okay.
Tell me about your welcoming wellness journey.
Well, when I heard the word welcoming, it's inviting. And so with an invitation, you get to choose if you want to or not. So I welcome assistance with wellness because it can be quite challenging.
And Amy, what about you?
After going through a significant crisis many years ago, it's important for me as a caregiver, as a friend, as a family member to put wellness at the top of my priority list. It's a no-brainer to me.
So let's just go back to when you were in a crisis and tell me about where you were then and what you learned.
Well, the very first crisis lasted over 3 years. So the first hurdle that I got over after bumping into it a lot was that isolation and that secrecy, which has its base in shame, but got stuck in failure mode and fear. I just didn't know what to do. And I was afraid. I was very much afraid. I was angry. And being willing to be seen, really seen, and not worry so much about getting judged. Because I already felt like I had messed up because I was in something I just didn't know what to do.
What would you say about where you were at that crisis moment?
Oh, the moment that crisis hit, I remember exactly where I was. I kind of describe it as pre-call and after-call. And I received a call while I was at work from a school guidance counselor. There wasn't a lot of time in my world for catastrophe. My identity was attached to my professional career. It was less attached to being a good friend, a good mother, a caring manager, right? And so during that crisis, there was a lot of, not only did I need to help my family member, and I needed to help the rest of my family and my husband, I had to figure out how to help myself.
Yes. Talk a little bit about how did you find that community of care?
I've given talks on finding my community of care, right? And I've done a lot of research on this and self-reflection on what worked for me. I mean, I would say during that time, I did not know NAMI, and I felt very alone. But what I can tell you is, you've mentioned your faith, and that's a big part of it. A lot of it has to do with extending grace to yourself and to others.
My heart for both of you for just taking your time and sharing your story. I feel empowered just sitting in the same room with each of you.
Linda and Amy are amazing. They're doing a great job. And we want our resources to help you do a great job with your family. So what did we hear? We heard the challenge is real. you are not alone. You need to take care of yourself as well as your loved one. You need a community of care and a support group. You need to extend grace and accept grace, which is one of the hardest things to do.
Well, tell us more about how we as a congregation can support this effort.
Well, obviously, the most important thing is that you pray for the initiative. Pray that we're doing what God wants us to do. We want you to go to the website, welcomingwellnessnc.com, and sign up for the newsletter. Because when you do that, then you'll receive a Zoom link for each one of our presentations. And bring a friend, come in person. We'd love to have you there. Sometimes it's easier if you have a friend with you. We want you to talk about mental health and think about mental health and share this initiative with others. We want you to be part of the solution of helping our congregation and helping our community. Because everybody knows somebody.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Robin. Congregation, as you see the website scrolling on your screen and the QR codes, we encourage you to scan them. You can donate directly to Welcoming Wellness that goes through the church and will be considered part of your nonprofit giving. So check out that QR code, sign up for the newsletter, and get involved. We hope to see you May 19th.